بعد از عمری مجاهدت حسینی و دائمی و خستگی ناپذیر.
لا الله يخوف يخوف هذا دير بالكم منطقة مرجع حمام.
Following the killing of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei in the U.S. and Israeli airstrikes we've been following, the biggest question isn't how Iran will retaliate, but whether the nation will disintegrate from within. And the answer lies in a dry but vital line of text. Article 111 of the Islamic Republic's Constitution. The moment a leadership vacuum was confirmed, Tehran activated an emergency process to establish a temporary leadership council. This was not an option. It was a constitutional mandate to prevent the paralysis of the state apparatus. This council was immediately formed with three key figures: President Masoud Pezeshkian, Chief Justice Gholam Hossein Mohseni AJ, and a newly appointed member cleric Ali Reza Arafi from the Guardian Council. This is exactly where Washington and Tel Aviv may have miscalculated. They expected an anarchic chaos to topple the regime, but instead, they witnessed a startling structural stability. This council is tasked with maintaining all supreme powers from political administration to military command until the assembly of experts can select an official successor. Iran is proving that even if the head was targeted, the regime's operating system was programmed to reboot in the middle of a storm. They didn't wait to fall. They used their own law to freeze the chaos and prepare for a next chapter that we are about to see is incredibly devastating. Look at the figure who just stepped out from the closed religious corridors of Qom to fill this power vacuum. Cleric Ali Reza Arafi, 67 years old. He is not a decorated general or a politician frequenting international television. Arafi is a pure product of the clerical establishment, deputy chairman of the Assembly of Experts, member of the Guardian Council, and most importantly, the head of Iran's massive seminary system. Placing Arafi on the Temporary Leadership Council is a message to religious factions that the theocratic structure remains intact. He is an absolute loyalist to Khamenei's legacy. However, here is the fatal weakness. Intelligence analysts are dissecting. Despite his incredibly deep religious resume, Arafi lacks any close ties to the security apparatus or the IRGC. He is a scholar in a war of warriors. This is Tehran's gamble. By choosing a political lightweight who is a religious heavyweight, this council is attempting to appease conservative clerics, while practical power on the battlefield is slowly slipping through their fingers. Arafi may maintain the regime's legitimacy on paper, but in a world where missiles are flying across the Strait of Hormuz, the question is whether a 67-year-old scholar can restrain generals burning with the will for revenge. Washington sees an Iran with a temporary leadership structure, but one that lacks an umpire with enough authority to tell the military to stop. Immediately after the temporary council was established, a message was broadcast across the entire state media apparatus. The Americans have brutally stabbed the very heart of the proud Iranian nation. This isn't just a literary metaphor. It is a declaration that all previous rules of engagement have been erased. Iran has officially notified regional nations that U.S. military bases in the Middle East are no longer considered the sovereign territory of their host countries. For Tehran, every square inch of land at bases in Qatar, Bahrain, or Kuwait is now American territory. And if Washington uses these military islands to launch attacks, Iran has vowed to level them without warning. This is where the axis of resistance, the network of allied militant groups from Lebanon to Yemen, receives a new mandate. They are no longer in a defensive posture. The wounded heart message is a signal that the Iranian military is in a state more resolute and powerful than ever before. They are proving that losing Khamenei has only made them more reckless. Washington thought they had weakened Iran's will, but in reality, they transformed a calculating adversary into a force acting with pure rage and a justified reason to destroy aggressor bases across the Gulf. What Tehran is alleging as the true motive behind this assassination. Because this isn't just a military strike, Iran is calling this an effort to shred the regional map. In recent statements, Iranian leadership has asserted that Israel is pursuing a strategy of disintegration and plunder against a nation with an ancient civilization and a massive population like theirs. Tehran argues that Israel, a small nation with limited resources, has no other way to establish dominance in the Middle East except by destroying the region's largest power. They believe Tel Aviv's ultimate goal is not regime change, but inciting separatism. By targeting the jugular of the central government, Israel hopes to create a chaos that allows them to break Iran into smaller, more manageable pieces. And this is where the Iranian military has set the final red line. They have vowed there will be zero leniency for forces conspiring to divide the nation. They assert that the entire nation and the armed forces are standing firm to protect Iran's unity. The message to Tel Aviv is crystal clear. Do not imagine that a mere breeze just blew, allowing you to dismember part of our territory. Washington and Israel may be calculating on an internal collapse, but Tehran is turning this separatist threat into a powerful national glue, transforming the fight against assassination into a war to protect the very survival of national identity. Look at the harsh reality unfolding in the Middle Eastern skies right now. Because billions of dollars in U.S. defense investments were just shaken by devices that cost as much as a used car. While I discussed Iran's retaliatory strikes in the previous part, this is what is keeping Washington strategists awake at night. The Patriot missile defense system, the crown jewel of American military engineering, is exposing fatal gaps against waves of low-cost drones. In Bahrain, home to the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet and Nabsent headquarters, a single Iranian Shahed drone breached the protective screen and struck a military installation at the international airport. A drone costing a few $1,000s defeated an interceptor system that costs millions of dollars per shot. And folks, this wasn't an isolated incident. At the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, despite U.S. claims of successful interceptions, ground reports indicate that Iranian missiles completely destroyed our most advanced communication suites. Reports show that U.S. interceptor stockpiles in the region have plummeted to just 25% of the required volume. When Iran executes saturation attacks launching hundreds of drones and missiles simultaneously, they are forcing the Patriot system to choose. Washington is burning through massive resources to shoot down cheap targets, and the math of this war is working against us. The question the Pentagon faces is no longer whether the Patriot works, but how many interceptors we have left before the skies are wide open to Tehran's drone rain. Look at the hard numbers behind the flashes in the sky, because this is where the war is truly decided not by bravery, but by economic endurance. While we discuss the technical failures of the Patriot system in Part 5, the much larger issue is a simple matter of addition and subtraction. America is running out of ammo. Military reports confirm that our interceptor stockpiles in the Middle East have dropped to a crisis level, just 25% of the volume the Pentagon deems necessary to protect all bases. Iran still possesses a massive arsenal of approximately 2,000 short-range ballistic missiles and thousands of one-way attack drones. Former Royal Navy Commander Tom Sharp issued a chilling warning. If Tehran decides to go all in, unleashing their forces hard and fast, U.S. defense systems will quickly run out of interceptors. We are firing million-dollar diamonds to knock down mass-produced, low-cost drone pebbles. Even if our technology works perfectly, we cannot win a war where the enemy can manufacture weapons faster than we can build interceptor missiles. Bases like Al Udeid, or the 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, face the risk of being completely exposed once the Patriot launchers run dry. Washington has poured billions into missile shields, but on the actual battlefield, the saturation of cheap missiles is proving that even the most sophisticated technology has its physical limits. The question is no longer can we intercept. It's how many days can we hold out before we have nothing left to fire? The final question hanging over the entire U.S. strategy in the Middle East? Because the reality on the battlefield is telling a completely different story from what is being reported in Washington. We have poured billions of dollars into missile defense systems, viewing them as impenetrable shields. But when a low-cost drone can bypass the protective screen of the 5th Fleet, and when our ammunition stockpiles deplete faster than the enemy can launch missiles, we must face a brutal truth. The shield has been breached. If the Patriot system cannot protect the most strategic bases, then what can? This isn't just a technical failure. It is a collapse of confidence in the ability to protect regional allies. Iran has proven they don't need superior technology to challenge a superpower. They only need persistence, overwhelming numbers, and a saturation tactic that hits right at our economic weakness. A Middle East no longer under the absolute protection of the American shield will be a completely different Middle East. Allied nations will begin to question the presence of the U.S. military if that presence no longer comes with safety. Washington faces a painful choice. Continue pouring money into a system being rendered obsolete by cheap weaponry, or admit that the era of absolute military dominance in the Gulf has come to an end. This war is no longer about who has the higher technology, but about who can endure longer in a world where drone pebbles are defeating missile diamonds.